Oh, I done fucked it up. Alright. Yes, sir. Gotta get this technical difficulty shit going. Going to bed, but like the show. Not desktop. I set up a whole transition and it didn't even work for some reason. Wonder if it's because I did it like that. I want to show y'all, so I'm going to go back to it. See if I can get it to work. I think if I do this, then do that. There we go. There we go. Good evening and welcome to the narrative. I am Stepfire. My co-host is not here tonight. He had some dog problems and power cords. So that's never good. But, last week my shit was jacked too. So it is what it is. Fredo's not going to be with us tonight. I do believe he's going to be in the chat though. So, we're here to guide you through the stories that shape our world. Here at The Narrative, we bring you the latest updates from around the world with in-depth analysis and exclusive insights. From breaking news to thought-provoking discussions, we explore the narratives that matter most. Join us as we delve into the stories that are changing the way we think, live, and interact. Don't forget to hit that like and sub to know when we go live and for behind the scenes insight. We got a few people to welcome in tonight. We got King Blackout. Salute, sir. What's going on, man? You should have a wrench. I think you got a wrench everywhere. Elderline, what's going on, man? Gorilla Biscuits, appreciate it. JS Urban Adventures. What's going on, man? Spaceman. There's Fredo in the chat. Chairman of the board, Mr. Anson, how are you doing? We got Ben Talk. Yeah, we got quite a few people here with us tonight. That's awesome. Thank you all for being here. We are not doing a weather alerts and updates because I have absolutely nothing to do with that. Unfortunately, so I hope you wasn't looking forward to that. So the stories we're going to be talking about, I only got 2 of them tonight. As you can see, the background that we're messing with, we're changing it up. So that's why it's unfinished, but we're trying to work on this stuff with neither of us having any damn time to do so. So the first topic we're going to be talking about is the big beautiful bill that was just passed. It's going to be interesting where that goes. And the second topic is the tariffs, the back and forth that's been going on there. As far as the philosophy, we're going to go over quite a few things tonight. We're going to go over, I think, 6 different philosophies, but they're just going to be some brief overviews, kind of help you understand where these things, what the core principles of these philosophies are. So we'll be getting to that after all of the wonderful, wonderful news. So the big, beautiful bill, as President Donald Trump has called it, recently passed the House of Representatives and is now moving through reconciliation with the Senate. Here's a few key items in this bill. The tax cuts. It extends the 2017 tax cuts that was enacted during Trump's first term, introduces new tax breaks, including exemptions for tipped wages and Social Security income, and with the tax cuts, the loss of this tax revenue is projected to be between 5 and 7 trillion over the next decade. Though it has been demonstrated multiple times that tax cuts often jolt the economy and growth, leading to more moving dollars and therefore dollars that are taxed. Some spending cuts was also in the bill. Proposed a 1.5 to 2 trillion in cuts to domestic programs, including Medicaid and other safety net services. The proposed cuts, the total reductions, the budget frameworks includes up to 880 billion in cuts to Medicaid over the next decade, representing more than 10% of federal Medicaid spending. It's a bit of the Affordable Care Act Medicaid expansion, but they call it Medicaid expansion, but I don't really understand why they call it that. For this reason, one major target of the rollback of the Affordable Care Act's Medicaid expansion, which currently provides coverage for individuals earning up to 138% of the federal poverty level. The federal government presently covers 90% of those costs, but Republicans propose reducing this match rate to approximately 60%, aligning it with traditional Medicaid funding levels. So it wants to reduce the ACA, and I guess, I don't know how that is Medicaid expansion when you're reducing the Affordable Care Act. But this change could yield $560 billion in savings over 10 years, but risks dismantling the expansion and leaving millions uninsured unless states step in to cover the shortfall. Funding mechanism changes. Proposals include transitioning Medicaid to block grants or per capita caps, which would limit federal contributions regardless of enrollment numbers. These changes could hinder Medicaid's ability to respond during economic downturns when the demand typically rises. Work requirements, obviously. Republicans are considering federal work requirements for Medicaid eligibility, a policy that has previously resulted in significant coverage losses in the states, which, like, kind of what you want if there's a work requirement. Implications: these cuts are aimed at offsetting the cost of extending the Trump era tax cuts, which are projected to cost, again, 4.5 to 7 trillion over a decade. Critics argue that such reductions could leave tens of millions of low-income Americans without access to health care and strain hospitals and clinics, particularly in rural areas. That doesn't even make any sense. States may face pressure to either increase their funding or reduce coverage and services, creating financial and political challenges. These changes are intended as reforms rather than outright cuts. The scale of proposed reductions suggests fundamental alterations to Medicaid structure and reach. Further details will be clarified during reconciliation negotiations between the House and the Senate. The bill also, so we've went over the tax cuts, the spending cuts, most of it aimed at Medicaid through the Medicaid expansion through the ACA and work requirements, which will necessarily make people lose their Medicaid if they're able to work but don't. Because most people on Medicaid they're on it for reasons that doesn't exclude them from having jobs in some sort of field or another. Now, obviously, there would be people who can't work at all, and I don't think really anybody's arguing that we shouldn't help those people. So after the spending cuts, we got increased spending. So it allocates $175 billion for immigration enforcement, including mass deportation operations. It provides $150 billion in additional military spending. That did seem a lot lower than what that was originally proposed. I do believe that it was supposed to be a lot more than that. Well, no donations. It also increases the debt ceiling. It raises the debt ceiling by 4 to 5 trillion to avoid a default and accommodate increased borrowing for spending and tax cuts. Legislative implications. The bill narrowly passes in the House with a vote of 216 to 214, so only 2 votes difference. Very, very close. Overcoming opposition from both Democrats and some Republicans, Republican fiscal conservative. Speaker Mike Johnson worked extensively to secure support from GOP holdouts by promising spending reductions. The Senate's version includes fewer spending cuts, $4 billion over a decade, creating need for reconciliation between the two chambers before final approval. Um, some of the economic and political implications. Critics argue that the bill could significantly inflate the national debt, which currently stands at 36 trillion. Uh, Critics always argue that money is going to go up when it's spent on shit they don't want it spent on. When it's spent on shit they want it spent on, then it's not going to significantly inflate the national debt. It's just how that always tends to work. Odd, isn't it? Democrats have strongly opposed the bill, claiming it disproportionately benefits wealthy individuals while cutting essential programs for working class Americans. It disproportionately benefits wealthy people. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know how it's supposed to. So it cutting essential programs for working class Americans. That's the Medicaid. Um, and obviously, if you're working class, uh, then you're working, so you would fulfill the work requirement and therefore not lose your Medicaid. Funny how that works. Um, and disproportionately benefits wealthy. Yeah, I don't know how you would adjudicate that. It cuts taxes, so yeah, the percentages that are cut, obviously they have more money, so even if it's the same percentage, it's going to be a much bigger lump sum than the working class Americans. So that's just common Democrat rhetoric. Proponents assert that extending tax cuts and increasing funding for border security and defense will spur economic growth and strengthen national security. The reconciliation process is expected to continue over the coming weeks, with further negotiations required to finalize the legislation. So, what do we got going on in the chat? Because that's all I got wrote up for it right now. We'll have updates when the reconciliation process gets underway, if there's any updates to give. It was funny because I was going to do the Big Beautiful Bill as just an update and do a quick just roll over it, and then I started typing it out and realized that it was going to take way too much time to just be an update. So I just turned it into a story, and the exact same thing with the tariffs. I was just going to do the quick update, but so much happened in a week. I can't really give a quick update. It just turns into a main story. So I end up having to do that. What is chat going on about? Tariffs. Step furry shilling for my tariffs. Look, I'm not like the biggest fan of tariffs, but I do understand how they can be utilized to ensure our interests. Um, and that can be demonstrated pretty easily using free market uh, principles, which is free trade. If we don't have free trade with another country because of restrictions, barriers, and tariffs they put on us, then what's wrong with using a tariff, a reciprocal tariff, not in the way that it's been used in media and from the White House, but actual reciprocal? Um, then what's wrong with doing that to get them to drop their trade barriers and in the end achieving more fair trade, free trade? If free trade is the ultimate goal, then there's an argument that tariffs can be used to help you achieve free trade. So you'll do your shilling too, if only you could understand the argument. Um, you don't like things, yeah. Power chords were involved, yes. So sounds like Pup got a new toy. Yep. Yeah. Thought we controlled the weather. It would be nice. It was beautiful today. Yeah, I went to my um, first liturgy today. Finally, I mean, we went about for I don't know 2.5 months. I wanted to go a while ago and ended up getting sick, and I didn't want to go to church and get all sick with church. And just you got kids, man. The shit lasts in the household forever, man. It takes forever to get it out of the household. Then it finally did, and then I got hit with a damn sinus attack. So that put me out for another 2 weeks. finally got out there, and it was pretty good. I enjoyed it. Um, let's see what else people are saying. Put dishwashing liquid on them. Yeah, I did it through sheer ass whipping. I mean, so I had to lose 3 or 4 cords, but now she don't chew shit, so it works out. Um, y'all talking about wires all night long. Let's see, Fredo Corleone. All right, yeah. So a lot of chat about power cords. Fredo said he'd be on it tomorrow. Need him because it just feels like I'm talking into the void, even though I know people are listening. But so I know that Trump has been basically talking about this bill since he got elected, and probably a little bit before. Um, he's been talking about getting this bill passed, so he finally got it with the tax cuts. Um, that's something that always helps, I think. And there, me and Anson will agree. Tax cuts are awesome. Um, I don't know how all this is supposed to balance out because it just seems like when we get to the tariffs portion, you add that on top of the legislative changes, and I don't know how any of this shit's supposed to work out. It's you got so many complicated systems interacting with each other, and a lot of them are being violently cranked. Um, and I know that any of these things on their own could probably be defended. It's it's when you start piling it up that it just gets a little hard to at least argue that it's all going to work out. I don't think that anybody is going to be able to make that argument. It's the system is so complicated, and I would even be skeptical of trusted economists, people that I actually listen to. Um, I can't trust what they say either because, like I said, it's a super complicated system, and you can only you know predict based off of history. But the variables within this equation that they keep figuring out, they change. And there's no way that at the moment we can keep up with the amount of change that is happening, and being able to calculate that in to be able to get an accurate prediction of how this stuff is going to affect the market. Um, so obviously the lefties, because like I said, I can defend any of these positions in and of themselves, and you can point to where this has worked out and how you run through the reasoning of it, and everything is sound. Uh, but when you start piling on just theory after theory after theory, it's hard to sift through that shit and be able to make an accurate prediction. I'm just a fucking dope dude. I mean, I can't figure all that shit out. It's too complicated. I got more important shit to worry about than how all of this shit intertwines and how it might affect um, future. But you know, voted for him, and I bought the ticket for the ride. So let's fucking go, baby. All right. So the tariffs. All right. So this we did an initial story on this, and then we gave an update on it. I don't remember if it was last week or the week before. Oh, you know what? Before we move into tariffs, I wanted to JS, are you still in the chat? Because you asked a question the other day. that I wanted to get to and I didn't. Market is a bubble. The impact is irrelevant because it doesn't indicate anything except where people stick their devalued currency because they have no choice but to invest it. Uh, yeah, okay. All right. I'll get to you asked a question the other week and I got the answer to that, so I wanted to address that real quick. But just to what Anson was saying, the market is a bubble. Yeah, there is a big bubble. I've heard that the stock value to company revenue is so off kilter that in some cases it's 60% too much. Uh, it's overpricing the stock versus where it should be with its growth and revenue and such. Um, which means when the market falls like it is, it's like essentially a correction because it has to deflate all of that percentage that it's overvalued before it starts to eat into the actual value of the company. Um, well, I mean, I guess the stock getting hit does affect the value of the company anyway, but I know that they're overpriced for their revenue stream. So yeah, it's a bubble. It's been a bubble for a very long time. It was a bubble in 2008, and that bubble never went away. That was just one bubble that ended up popping. So yeah, it's a house of cards bubble. Yeah, the impact is irrelevant because it doesn't indicate anything except where people stick their devalued currency. That is also true, um, especially because if you've watched the stock market over the last 2 weeks, particularly with the talk of tariffs and such, anytime tariffs were talked about, you would just see the stocks just go down. And anytime there was I can't remember which uh, uh, network it was, news network it was, but they released a report about Trump pausing the tariffs, pausing his whole Liberation Day thing. And it wasn't true. So like the stock shot up because the report came out, and then the White House come out and said it's not true, and then it just fell right back down. The shit has been all over the place, and people are just like pulling their money out, throwing their money in, pulling their money out, and it's like, bro, like the uncertainty of in the market. I've heard the arguments, the chaos that it can cause, but it seems like most of that chaos is um, felt by uh, the fat cats anyway. They're the ones that take the biggest hit. Uh, there's always anytime there's disruptions in the markets like that, it will eventually hit trickle down. Uh, I am a proponent of trickle down economics. It only makes sense. Um, I never found the answer the question. I think it was uh, yeah, yes. Oh yes. Okay, so we this was when we were talking about Neoplatonism. When we were discussing the one, the nous, the psyche, and you had said that to you it sounded more like it was analogous to the id, the ego, and the ego than it would be to the Trinity, because we were talking about how uh, there is a lot of similarities between how the Trinity is formulated, how we understand it to be, and how Neoplatonism with uh, Plotinus, I think his name was, uh, his development of Neoplatonism. So the answer between the id, ego, and superego as opposed to the one, the nous, and the psyche. Neoplatonism and the concepts of the id, ego, and superego are distinct, but they can be connected through the concept of eros, which is central to both. So this is an idea that both of these share between what is it? Sigmund Freud, I believe, is the one that did all that, and Plotinus, and Neoplatonism. Uh, in Neoplatonism, eros is often seen as the force that drives the soul towards the divine and is a key element in the philosophical system. Sigmund Freud, who developed the concepts of id, ego, and superego, also referenced eros as a universal desire that seeks to compensate for the processes of biological decay and to rejuvenate the species through metabolism and reproduction. Um, so Neoplatonism and wait a minute. Oh, there was a second part to that answer, and I didn't put it here because I had but it was talking about the id, the ego, and the superego. These are more things that would be associated with man itself. Um, so the id, ego, and superego would live within the natural of um, the Neoplatonistic worldview, the natural realm where physicality actually is, time and space and such. Um, where so it's the but it it did say that there's a connection. It's just because they use the word, I believe it's a Greek word, eros, but they mean the two words in slightly different ways. So again, in Neoplatonism, it's the force that drives the soul towards the divine, and in the Sigmund Freud's, it is the universal desire that seeks to compensate for the processes of biological decay. So um, with Neoplatonism, it is the metaphysical, whereas with Sigmund Freud, it is the physical. They're dealing with two different realms, essentially. So we got Elderline. It's why I don't invest in stocks. I have some money here and there in crypto. That's about it. Stocks just seem like gambling to me. Yeah, well, except, and this is, I have not heard, I don't think there's any way of getting around this argument. But if you would have invested into any of the companies that are alive and well today, Tesla, Apple, if you would have done this that long ago, you would be in, you'd be sitting fat, dude. You'd be sitting fat. If you look at the trend lines of the stock market since it's opened, it's been one way. Now there you be see some little dips in there along the way, and you'll see some spikes along the way, but it is almost straight up, or not straight up, but which means that if you invest, I'm not a financial advisor in any way, um, but from my understanding, if you invest now, you hold on to start the day trading stuff where you're like trying to buy high, sell low, or opposite, sell high, buy low. Um, that's gambling. That is more uh, that'd be more accurately described as gambling because you don't know what's going to happen with in individual stocks. But when you look at the stock market over a 30-year period, it is one way. So if you invest in stocks, just history has thus far shown that it's safe to assume it's going to keep going that way. And the way that I look at it is if it doesn't, then we got bigger shit to worry about than what I got stocks in. Money's probably not going to be worth anything if a problem comes about that's so bad that it wipes out the stock market. That's first world ending, if not global ending. um, Yeah, Freud was close, but he was anti-God and is what I usually say, so he's missing an important piece. Wizard of Id is hilarious. Thanks for covering the funnies. Um, Missing an important. Yeah, Plotinus. He was. He also didn't believe in God the way that we understand God to be. He believed in a God that was uh, impersonal. There was no connection or desire to reach down to the lower, quote unquote, lower realms of existence until you finally get to the natural where we all reside. Um, they're not trying to reach down. Everything down is trying to reach up. So there is no personal of trying to save that which is down below you. Wherein Christianity, the the Alpha and Omega does reach down. It is a personal God. So that would be one of the fundamental distinctions between the two. Gambling is fun, and I'm a high roller. I climb in an old drum at the top of the hill and start my ride. Gambling is fun. Don't let nobody tell you different. It is incredibly fun, but it is a great way to lose a lot of money. But if you want to go, like my homeboy called me up one day, and this was before I had just moved up to the town I'm at now, didn't have a job, except little odds and ends here and there. And my boy called me up, and he's like, "Hey man, I gotta run to Michigan for the weekend. You want to go with me?" He's like, yeah, sure. So we went up there. We hit a rager in a cornfield out in Ohio or Michigan. Uh, the next morning, we didn't sleep at all, obviously. Next morning, we drive out to Detroit, hit a casino. I only had $15 in my pocket. I put it down on craps and got um, $90 out of it, dude. And we went home that day. So sometimes it works out, but I also worked at a casino, and I know for a fact that it almost never works out. So JS says I have some savings money. I have some savings money and am thinking I should just invest it while the market is down, but I have no idea what the smart move is. Um, yeah, I mean, again, it has to be for long-term investment. Like that's where I put money aside with each paycheck that goes towards buying stocks. Um, that money is to sit there. I'm down like with Tesla. Oh my god, that stock is absolute garbage right now. In fact, let me look at what the stock has been doing. I haven't looked at it in a few days. It's just been too depressing because I put a lot of money in Tesla. But the idea is, even though we do hit this little dip in with Tesla, um, over time, this stuff will recover. This stuff will blow over eventually, and hopefully Tesla's not getting anywhere. They had me scared with the vandalism stuff because if the left keeps those kind of tactics up, you will drive the stock of Tesla into the dirt, and that's the way a company dies. Um, so I mean, I mean, all right, just look at it like this. We know that Tesla has taken a massive hit since the beginning of the year. Well, since what is this? December. So since the beginning of the year, it's been it was up to about 470, 480, and it dumped to 240. So cut in half in the last few months. In the last 12 months, it's still up 50%. Like it's still up 50%. If you would have bought a year ago, you're you got 50% more in there than now. I've been buying it throughout the year. So I didn't buy a bunch of it at one time and just hold on to it. I got it scheduled to buy. Um, but I have lost looks like 20%. I'm down in Tesla. stocks right now. So, and that hurt because that was my biggest investment. But I mean, there was the point just demonstrated again. A 50% drop. I mean, it's still 50% up over the last 12 months, and it took a 50% dip in the last 3. So with that 50% dip, it's still 50% up from where it was at last year. And if you just zoom out further than that, you hit the all, so you can see it completely expanded, or 10-year, however long you want to do it. It just goes one direction, dude. And Elon, he runs multiple successful businesses. He has money. The reason he has money to begin with is because he created an incredibly successful business that is still used and is incredibly popular to this day, PayPal. So him making money, he's really good at it. So it's a good bet. So if you're a gambling man, but I am not a financial advisor in any way, shape, or form. I am just a dumbass on the internet. Well, listen to me. um, my own personal Jesus told me that I am at a high frequency. My crystal vibrates at a level that you can't even understand, no matter how delusional you are. Well, you don't know how delusional people can get then. People will understand all sorts of shit. Yeah, like JS with that, who was it? Steel Man the other night, talking about Jesus was a mushroom. He like mocked people for saying Jesus was bread, and then he was like, "Y'all are stupid as fuck. He was a mushroom." It's like, I mean, look, if it's trolling, it's really good trolling, but that shit was out there, dude. Um, JS, don't invest anything you can't afford to lose. Yeah, and that's also good advice, though I am not giving any advice whatsoever financially at all at any point in time, ever. Uh, don't invest money you can't lose, you can't afford to lose. Elderline says, yeah, Neoplatonism is more consistent with Islam and Rabbinic Judaism. Thomas Aquinas tried to use it, failed. Yeah, I know that um, there are more, and when you hear Jews talk about practicing Jews talk about God, it does seem like in a whole more Neoplatonic way. I don't know how they, because I haven't really studied Judaism, so I don't know how their theology works exactly. It would be interesting at some point to dive into it, but probably for another day. Fredo got Tesla options too. Yeah, so he knows. The only consistent use of Christian Neoplatonism is Gnosticism. Yeah, um, I only understand Gnosticism broadly, which is just to mean that um, you have a secret way of obtaining this knowledge that nobody else has been able to obtain. Um, I only understand it broadly. When you try to bring it to the Christian realm, I mean, I guess Gnosticism wouldn't that apply to Mormonism in that sense? But not even, because their prophets claim to get revelation even to this day. So yeah, so I just don't know how it applies in the context of Christianity in particular. Chairman of the board, Mr. Ensign. My pet alligator is building model pyramids. That's how I know alligators are dinosaurs. And that is sound as fuck. Stillman is not trolling. This is been a consistent thing I've made fun of him about. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, dude. I don't know. That was, I mean, the JRE, go watch another JRE podcast, that's what it felt like. It was like he watched one of them psilocybin Joe Rogan talk about one of them, have one of the doctors on that, or watch a YouTube video that associates Christianity with taking psilocybin, and that's how we, talk to God, and that's how everything was developed. And yeah, it was, yeah. All right, damn, I killed a lot of time there. Um, been talking about all sorts of shit except what we're supposed to be talking about, just tariffs. So, last week, President Donald Trump implemented sweeping changes to the U.S. trade policy, introducing a blanket 10% tariff on all imports from all countries effective April 5th. This move, announced on April 2nd and dubbed Liberation Day, was framed as an effort to address the persistent U.S. trade deficit and protect domestic manufacturing. Baseline tariffs applies universally, but higher reciprocal tariffs were imposed on imports from nations with significant trade imbalances with the U.S., such as China, Vietnam, and Cambodia. So I read that, and Vietnam, I don't know what we're expecting out of that. You know, China makes sense. I don't know what we're expecting out of Vietnam, and Cambodia is so much more insignificant because I don't even know where Cambodia is. It sounds like it's South America, but I don't have a clue. So, but China makes sense. China faces the highest tariff rates under this policy, which, with a total effective rate of over 145%, including a 20% opioid-related levy. Other countries such as Vietnam, 46%, and Cambodia, 49%, also face steep tariffs. Um, I know we get a, I know we get a lot of clothes from Vietnam, so I mean that will kind of spur, I guess, clothing manufacturing in the United States. You know, Mormons are a rebrand of Gnostics. Yeah, okay. Well, I just understood a little bit of it. However, the tariffs exceeding this baseline 10% were temporarily paused for 90 days for all countries except China, starting on April 9th. The pause provides time for negotiations and has offered relief to nations heavily reliant on exports to the U.S., such as Vietnam. So I know that within the first day or two of announcing the initial tariffs, the White House said that 50 countries had come and was wanting to renegotiate. Again, that's using tariffs to bring people to the table. Now, is that exactly what Trump was trying to do? I have no fucking clue. Neither do you. So, we're kind of like on the same grounding there. But that has been uh, the effect of the tariffs. If that's the case, then we're opening up trade by using tariffs. And it's funny because you never did respond to that in chat, Anson. Running, running, running. You want to talk about operating on high frequencies with your own personal Jesus as your crystals vibrate. You can't answer to using tariffs as a mechanism to open up free trade. um, and so it was. I know they had reported with the first day or two after it was 50 countries, and it was a day or two ago that I heard 100 or nine, was it 90 countries? I think it was up to 90 countries. I haven't seen any sources for any of that. I mean, except that's coming from the White House. I just don't know how. That's just information that they would have that it's, I guess, not public. So, um, which again, that's really good. 90 countries. That's a lot of fucking countries, dude. You want to go see the Book of Mormon? Yeah, dude. If you haven't watched the Jim Bob and Jay Dyer Mormonism, it kind of obliterates that entire cult. Because, when you think of Mormons, you think of like Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney just seemed like a chill Christian dude, especially because I wasn't really into politics back then with him and Obama. So, you don't really think nothing of it. You you're told that they're Christian. It's not until you like start getting into their theology, like, no, bro, you're not. What are you? You're not Christian, dude. What what the hell is all this? It is some crazy shit. They believe some crazy shit, dude. Like, Anson, why don't you go pick on some Mormons, dude? That's like easy targets. Fish in the barrel. Go mess with, you know, Islam. You come and attack Christianity and then get dogged every time. It has to make you feel bad that the ideology that you oppose dominates you to the point that you tried your hardest to argue that you could have tag with evolution. Manson. I'm just messing with you, man. The policy has disrupted long-standing trade agreements, including free trade agreements with Canada and Mexico, which is now subject to the universal 10% tariff. Additionally, exceptions were granted for specific goods like pharmaceuticals and microchips, while electronics were later excluded from the tariffs entirely. Um, President Donald Trump has announced plans to impose new tariffs targeting semiconductor imports, signaling a shift in his administration's trade strategy. So the last three paragraphs that I read there, that was um, last week, stuff that was taking place last week, leading up into this week. Um, and this is stuff that's happened in the past day or two. Um, Additionally, exemptions. Oh, I've read that already. I'll just start with this paragraph again. President Donald Trump has announced plans to impose new tariffs targeting semiconductor imports, signaling a shift in his administration's trade strategy. This move comes shortly after his exemptions were granted for smartphones, computers, and other electronics from steep tariffs on Chinese goods. While these exemptions were initially seen as a reprieve for U.S. tech firms like Apple and Nvidia, the administration clarified that they are temporary measures. They are temporary measures as it prepares to introduce specific levies on semiconductors in the coming week. Um, the new tariffs are part of Trump's broader effort to reduce U.S. reliance on foreign manufacturing, particularly from China, which he argues poses risk to national and economic security. The administration has raised duties to Chinese imports to 145%, prompting retaliation from Beijing with tariffs up to 125% on U.S. goods. This escalation trade conflict has disrupted global markets and supply chains, raising concerns about inflation and economic growth. Um, that's kind of the point of all of it, right? Because kind of he's kind of like trying to jumpstart where he should have been had the disaster of Biden had come along. Don't get me started on Nvidia. Yeah, dude, that wasn't a problem there for a little while. Uh, but I guess that's a problem because I had trouble getting my 2080. I mean, dude, I was paying brand new 3060 Ti's. I spent $1,500 on one. Spent $1,400 on two other ones each. Like when I was trying to buy them up, and I was paying 4, 5 times what they were valued at. So I understand scalping. Scalpers fucking suck. They're scum. Can't stand them. It's not Nvidia's fault. It's scalpers' fault. They buy the shit up and try to sell it for an incredibly uh, inflated price. Trump's tariff strategy has sparked confusion among businesses and investors. While the exemptions for electronics initially appeared to benefit consumers by preventing price hikes on products like iPhones, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick indicated that these items would soon face separate tariffs unrelated to specific countries. This uncertainty has led to mixed signals from the administration and heightened volatility in global trade relations. China has responded by urging the U.S. to cancel its reciprocal tariffs entirely, emphasizing the need for mutual respect in trade agreements. However, Trump's administration has shown little willingness to back down, instead doubling down on measures aimed at reshaping the global economic landscape. So, yeah, it was kind of trippy because I know listening to political commentators, a lot of them were freaking out about it. Um, it was doom and gloom. And then at the last second, Trump was like, nah, I'll just stick with the 10%, except for China. Fuck you, China. Um, but there's an argument for China with what they tariff us, with the trade barriers they have, where they don't allow our stuff to come into their country. If you want free trade, you gotta freely trade, or you're just taking advantage of us. It's partially Nvidia's fault because they underproduce things because they are more focused on AI than gaming now. Yeah, yeah, I guess so. Yeah, but the bots work for the scalpers. Still the scalpers. But yeah, I mean, it's been a problem with Nvidia for a while. So, and I don't know why it's been such a big problem because it went there for like a year, year and a half, hell, maybe 2 years, where it was like impossible to get a hold of a graphics card for a decent price. Um, but that ended up ending because, like I said, the 2080 Ti I had to spend a lot of money on to get, but the 4070 Ti that I got, I was able to get it for $500. So, and that was it was a few weeks after release. It wasn't like immediately. So, yeah, it was nice. Um, so that is all for tonight's news segment with the narrative. Thank you for joining us as we explored some of these stories. Still no answer from Anson. He has ran from chat. He has gone AWOL. He is missing. And I know he has to be here. He should be here. He's chairman of the board. What the hell else is that supposed to mean? Don't forget to like and subscribe for more updates and behind the scenes insights. We appreciate your engagement and look forward to bringing you more compelling narratives in our next show. Until then, stay informed and stay engaged. Um, so, philosophy. I just called this blanket philosophy because it's kind of just going over a lot of different philosophies at the same time. Um, he's been voted out. Um, oh, that's just the end of the news portion of it, King. The we still got the philosophy. Unless you don't want me to do the philosophy tonight, since I'm all by myself, I'm all alone. There's no one here to philosophize with me. But we've got, I think it's six. I don't want to go and count them right now. So we have, get this straight quick. And I gotta close all these. And there we go. We got. So we'll be going over. We'll give Anson this. He actually gives interesting arguments, but they're fun to take apart. Yeah, no, I always enjoy arguing with Anson because he'll throw you some shit you wasn't expecting. He's one of the few people that will surprise me with some shit. um, so we're going to cover a little bit of existentialism, postmodernism, analytic philosophy, environmental philosophy, feminist philosophy, and the philosophy of pragmatism. Um, the best part, philosophicalizing. You got me all fucked up now. Philosophi, philosophicalizing, philosophicalizing. um, so feminism's in here, but I'm not trying to do the whole, you know, same spiel that we've all heard a dozen times. I'm trying to just stick to kind of the core of it. Try not to use any rhetoric while trying to explain these things, because rhetoric can cause confusion. But existentialism, it focuses on individual experience and freedom, rejecting universal moral or scientific frameworks as sufficient to understanding human existence. Existentialists emphasize authenticity and personal responsibility in creating meaning in an indifferent universe. Existentialism critiques traditional philosophical systems for being overly abstract and detached from real human experience. Instead, it focuses on concrete issues like choice, morality, and relationships. It rejects doctrines like idealism, scientism, and necessitarianism. Did I say that right? Dude, these words piss me off. Necessitarianism, which deny individual agency or reduce existence to predetermined systems. Some of the core principles: existence precedes essence. Uh, so, unlike traditional views that assume a predetermined purpose, which is what they refer purpose as essence in essentialism, existentialism, fucking words, dude. Um, essence is purpose. So, existence precedes purpose, uh, is one of their principles. They argue that humans are born without inherent meaning and that individuals create their essence or their purpose through the choices they make and the actions they take. Um, Another principle is freedom and responsibility. They emphasize personal freedom to make choices, but also stress the weight of responsibility for those choices and their consequences. Another principle is authenticity. Living authentically means embracing one's freedom and individuality rather than conforming to societal norms or external expectations. Um, Number four is absurdity. The conflict between, this one was actually kind of interesting. The conflict between humanity's desire for meaning and the universe's indifference creates a sense of absurdity. This tension is central to existentialists' thought. I find this one interesting because it kind of it's question begging. Uh, the reason that it is absurd is because they accept that the universe is indifferent. So, us trying to find meaning in a meaningless universe seems absurd. But that's because they accept that the universe is meaningless. So, um, another principle, number five, would be alienation. Existentialists explore feelings of estrangement from oneself, others, and the world, often arising from the lack of inherent meaning. Yeah, that's a pretty big problem with existentialism is that right there. And this one, I guess. Anxiety and angst. These emotions reflect the burden of freedom and the realization that individuals alone are responsible for defining their lives. So this does borrow a little bit from nihilism. There's some of the entailments of existentialism is nihilism. And I hold to a principle that anything that leads to absurdity must be dispensed with. And nihilism is death. There's no point. It's literally what nihilism means. There's no point in anything, and that leads to absurdity. And therefore, we must dispense with it. So anything that leads to nihilism must be dispensed with. Um, so existentialism leads to nihilism, and therefore should be dispensed with. It's great filtering. As soon as you understand the implications of nihilism, to accept it uh, would mean basically that you have to accept that there is no such thing as love. You don't love your kids or your wife or your mother or father. You don't love these people. It's not real. Uh, it's all biological. It's if you don't go the epistemic nihilistic route, where you can't know whether you know something. That's a thing as well. Um, Again, that puts you at a standstill. You can't go anywhere from there. There's literally nowhere to go, uh, and having nowhere to go is absurd. So, uh, so they claim that the anxiety and the angst, the reason that people feel that when they start exploring um, existentialism, is because that's their body's way of coping with the burden of freedom and the fact that they have to make their own meaning through the choices they make and such. So, so it sounds like me like a bunch of cope. The reason people feel like that is because your system is fucking garbage. Some popular philosophers that push this idea: Soren Kierkegaard, Friedrich Nietzsche, Fyodor Dostoevsky, Martin Heidegger, yeah, and Simone de Beauvoir. So you'll know some of those names. It's not all those names. Those are all pretty popular names. Simone de Beauvoir is a feminist thinker as well. So just remember that existentialism, one of the uh, philosophers of existentialism, is the same chick that helped produce feminism. So if that's not enough for you to dispense with that worldview, then you're delusional. You're Anson. uh, so the next philosophy is postmodernism. Postmodernism critiques the grand narratives of modernism, such as objective truths and progress. It emphasizes the relativity of knowledge, subjectivity, and the deconstruction of traditional ideologies. Postmodernism has been criticized for promoting nihilistic relativism, undermining objective knowledge, and lacking coherence as a unified school of thought. Despite this, it remains influential in shaping contemporary thoughts across disciplines. Yeah, this was back when we were doing the theories of truth. There was the postmodernist uses the pragmatic theory of truth, um, which is to say that whatever works is what is true, essentially. And sometimes what works changes, and therefore what is true changes. So that's where you get the nihilistic relativism. you can't know, and it's all relative. So again, right off the bat, based off of the simple metric of absurdity must be dispensed with, nihilism is absurd. Postmodernism is also out the window. What we got here? My word doesn't look so dumb now, does it? Yeah, yours was still pretty bad, but oh yeah, it is. How are we doing that, Fredo? I don't even know how we were doing that. Were we doing that through Collab Cam or were we doing that through Discord? I don't know. Hopefully, Fredo will get that. Um, Elderline, dude, half the people who make philosophical terms didn't make them with a southern accent in mind. Yeah. Yeah, that is very true. Um, very fun stream to listen to. Thank you, Ben Talk. Yeah, and I'm just by myself today. I mean, Fredo's the comic collab cam, so I got to get the collab cam link. Oh shit, dude! I don't know how to do this. I'll fucking figure it out. Oh, hopefully you can still hear me. You know what? Yeah, yeah, we'll do Discord, man. I don't know how to use the collab cam. That's a Fredo thing. So we will invite people here. You mother streaming mode sometimes, dude. Then I can pin this bitch somehow. Yeah, I don't know how to pin stuff. Yeah, sound like a boomer. That's the Discord link. I'll jump in there. If anybody wants to talk about any of this that we're going over, if you have a little more in-depth understanding of it, anything like that. Um, so yeah, we get a Fredo Discord calling. Oh yeah, I guess Fredo, you if you wanted to, you could join through Discord, but you might not be in a position to do that. Let's see. So core principles of postmodernism: rejection of meta narratives. So Jean Fran, I went over all these names earlier and made sure I could at least say them. But so the rejection of meta narratives, it's been famously described. Postmodernism has been famously described as incredulity towards meta narratives, which is kind of interesting when you think of it. Rejecting universal explanations or overarching stories that claim to define truth or history. So obviously, when with that statement, you run into some pretty major problems right out the gate. You can't trust history or define truth through stories. Like yeah. Another principle is relativism. Truth is seen as contingent on historical, social, and cultural context rather than absolute or universal, which is no man, you're good. Um, Jean-Luc Picard. It's Jean Francois Lyotard. Jean Francois Lyotard. He's the one that described postmodernism as incredulity toward meta narratives. But with um, those, I mean, immediately those two principles are in conflict. The rejection of meta narratives, which um, rejects universal explanations or overarching stories that claim to define truth or history, and then it defines truth is seen as contingent on historical context. Because you can't trust any story, or they reject any story that explains history, or those two principles immediately are in conflict. But it doesn't matter because it's postmodernism. So accepting absurdities is a-okay. What's going on, Fredo? You sound good. So good. Oh yeah, I guess we need to check that. Bro, I'm not a streamer. I'm a participant. I want to make sure we get a yes on you being heard in the stream before I go on. Postmodernism. I was just getting done talking about how the first principle and the second principle are like in conflict with each other. So I will tell you that in just a minute. But
You hear me?
oh shit, I bet they can hear you now. Give it a test, Fredo.
Test one, test two. Could you hear me, chat?
It's too loud. Let me know because I can unmute my shit. I need to figure out how to get that delay gone because like grid. I will tell you that in just a minute. But he can.
You hear me?
Oh shit, I bet they can hear you now. Give it a test, Fredo.
Test one, test.
Yeah. Okay.
You could do what?
Yeah, you can be heard now.
Okay, bet.
So you just asked me to sum up the first and second principles. What's going on,
Principles
Chris?
of postmodernism. Crystal Strange, what up, baby? Ben Talk, how's it going, man?
There is an echo.
It's
Oh, that
probably
was
because
yeah.
of
That's because I
that.
unmuted the YouTube video in order to hear if y'all could hear. So echo should be gone now. If it's still there, I don't know what to do now.
It might be me. Yeah.
Sound fine on mine, but just let us know if the echo is still there. No echo. Good. All right. So the first principle was the rejection of meta narratives, which encompasses um, universal explanations or overarching stories that claim to define truth or history. But you're not.
Ooh.
They reject.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
I get it though, because like, how could you know if you wasn't there to observe it?
Yeah. I mean it does kind of enter into more of a speculative realm where you have to accept the narrative that's been given to you. You can't know if the facts of the case is actually that. Um, but sticking back to the principle, one of my principles, dispensing with the absurd. Um, when you get to the point, when you become a skeptic to the point that you are no longer able to act because you can't trust anything. I mean, a skeptic, if what am I trying to like an extreme skeptic would be a nihilist because you just be skeptic of everything. It leads to absurdity. So,
I mean,
help.
but that that's what we're taught, like, is to question everything, right? So like,
Yeah.
like if one rejects a narrative over like the overarching like everything, what would be the harm of that?
Um, reject. Well, it's that you reject all narratives. So then you have no. Um, you essentially eliminate data that you can no longer use in order to assess what you should do in the future. They argue that you can't look into the past and use that as an example of what you should or should not do in the present. Um, which again, that leads you to not being able to do anything except just fucking
Yeah.
guesswork all the time because you're not allowed to rely on historical data or historical stories.
Oh, so it doesn't even. So I was just thinking of like an explanation of like how the world came to be or something like that. I wasn't even thinking of like a historical narrative of like maybe how a war turned out or something
Yeah,
like that.
exactly. Yeah, but I mean, it does apply also to you know the creation story and all of that. So, um, okay, so that was the first principle, rejecting um, historical narratives and such, and
Okay.
the inability to
And so
define
what's the
truth.
second one?
And the second principle is relativism, which is truth is seen as contingent on historical, social, and cultural context. These contexts must be delivered through a narrative. So you can't use a historical narrative or a social
Yeah,
narrative or
automatic contradiction.
yeah immediately out the gate. Um, but that's only just the first two principles.
So
The
wait, what's like the overarching philosophy of postmodernism? Like what's like their mission statement or whatever?
I mean that's I guess this one sentence or it's two sentences. Um, so postmodernism critiques the grand narratives of modernism, such as objective truth and progress. It emphasizes the relativity of knowledge, subjectivity, and the deconstruction of traditional ideologies.
So you should just stay in the now and use what works best in the present moment. Is basically postmodernism.
Except what is best is a narrative.
Accept what is best in the narrative, but you're not even
No,
supposed to
is
accept
the
the
narrative.
narrative.
Exactly.
So you don't accept the narrative as a whole, but you accept the um
Yes. Um,
pragmatic pieces out of it to
yeah.
make the society run better.
Yeah. It is. But the a true postmodernist would argue your definition of what pragmatic is. So, what's pragmatic must have some historical standard. You have to judge something about, you have to judge the results of something, and then determine whether it fit with the goal of whatever it was used for to begin with. Um,
Yeah.
but again, you're back into you have to reject the historical accounts and narratives. So again, this is one of those. It's absurd. It just
Maybe they just mean you just reject the narrative as a whole, but if there is a pragmatic use, you use that.
yeah, but
So it's all like using the third theory of truth, like the pragmatic theory. It's like it's true if it's good for society type shit.
yeah, but what's good for society is a narrative that must be rejected.
Yeah. I mean, the narrative, in their mind, the narrative would be bad for society, but there are some truths within the society that, if used pragmatically, can be of benefit.
But what is of benefit is a narrative that must be dispensed with.
Yeah, yeah, it's a part of the narrative. It's like the broken clock strikes right twice a day
Even a
type
broken
thing.
clock is right twice a day.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean the the problem is just the contradiction. The philosophy immobilizes you from being able to really do anything because what is good is a narrative. You know, what I will tell you what good is a narrative of how I understand what good to be, and or what's good to other people is just a narrative to them. These things must be dispensed with because they're narratives, and narratives must be dispensed with. So I don't know how this theory could the
So postmodernism doesn't include like any sort of guidelines on like what's good and what would be bad.
um I couldn't say yes or no to that, but I could tell you that what's good and bad is a narrative that must be dispensed with.
Yeah, based on historical narratives. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so the only utility I could see postmodernism having is just a pragmatic one. It it reminds me a lot
It's
of the
basically
pragmatic
people
theory of
like,
truth.
yeah, it's like people fumbling around in the dark. We're not going to use any knowledge from the past. We're just going to try to do what's best for society. This might work better if we do this. You know what I mean? Like it's just like trying to build Legos without the guidebook, pretty much.
Yeah. So the third principle of postmodernism, critique of objectivity. Postmodernists argue that objectivity is an illusion shaped by power structure and cultural norms. Um,
Wait, one more time. What's the third principle? Read that again.
Postmodernists argue that objectivity is an illusion shaped by power structures and cultural norms. So,
What that definition in itself contradicts itself. If it's by
yeah.
cultural norms, that means it's subjective, right? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, who came up with this philosophy? Y'all niggas tripping.
uh, Objectivity is there. Well, it's saying that there's no such thing as objectivity. Nobody can be objective, and that all extends to truth. There is no objective truth to
There
the
is no
matter.
objective truth. So yeah, like I said earlier, they're operating on the pragmatic theory of truth.
Yeah.
To
To be a
say that the grass
sleazeball,
isn't green. Yeah,
is what postmodernism is for. You can implore postmodern because you'll hear people like a good skeptic could impersonate a postmodernist because that's all postmodernism is. It's skepticism taken to a ridiculous degree. Um, so a skeptic can ask the right question, and if you watch Jim Bob, he's expert at this shit, expert at skepticism and being able to attack
yeah.
positions that he can, like the moon landing and stuff, or
Poke
evolution.
holes all in that shit. Yeah.
The way he can get in on that shit is absolutely amazing. It's from the skeptics, a skeptical worldview. Um, so deconstruction is the fourth principle. This was developed by Jacques Derrida, I believe it is. Jacques, I think it's Jacques Derrida. Uh,
Might be Jacques.
Jacques. I mean, it ends with an es.
Oh yeah, it's Jacques. I got a homeboy named Jacques that ends with the es. Yeah.
So Jacques Derrida. This So deconstruction. This method critiques the self-contained meaning of. I mean, this is where if you thought it was bad before, you're fixing to see just how worse it can get. It critiques the self-contained meaning of texts, showing how language and meaning are fluid and dependent on contrasts with other meanings. Which means I can uh, the words that I'm using can mean anything that I want them to mean. Any words that you use can mean what I want them to mean. Um,
I don't.
it's deconstructing the language, being able to. So the words that have meanings, and we'll just take it back to the first and second principle here. The words have meanings, but the words having meanings is a narrative that must be dispensed with.
But there's yeah, because bro, there's only like the narrative that I can give you. Like I think that this word means this after I'm confused about what you use by the word because you didn't use it in the proper context. Because every word has to be built on like societal like norms, like what everybody believes a word to mean. Otherwise, the language breaks down. It just doesn't make sense. That whole concept is just like I don't know. They were eating mushrooms in a cave or something, bro.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Postmodernism is a modern philosophy, so this isn't even some old shit, dude. Like,
Oh yeah, no, it's definitely some college kids on some psychedelics. It's a mind-boggling to say the least.
um, Elderline says it's why people like Mel think they can debate without needing any logic. Sounds like a psyop to demoralize the population. JS with the French names are weird. Just a little casual bigotry. Elderline, I asked Mel to show me proof of a Neanderthal child, and the only two things he brought up was an article about a hybrid Neanderthal and a human skeleton and a jawbone shard that had like 4 molars. Yeah, I don't take anything that dude says seriously. I can't. It's moving the goalposts. It's constant word concept fallacy, and it's I can even deal with all that. It's accepting contradictions. Once you accept a contradiction, you're absurd and must be dispensed with.
Exactly. It's over with.
um, it's after modern. It's postmodern. Yeah, it hasn't happened yet. It's a philosophy that's about to be here. Number
We're
five.
trying. I'm bringing it back. It's like porch monkey. I'm bringing it back.
Ah, the graveyard of words. Yeah. We'll get the F word back one day. I think
Hopefully.
it's such a powerful word.
Oh shit. Hopefully that isn't TOS. What I just said.
Well, hopefully.
Yeah.
Oh,
Hopefully it isn't against TOS.
dude's
I
name is
wouldn't even
Mel.
think.
Enough said. He's a walking contradiction. Yeah. Number
I mean,
five.
Mel Gibson. Mel Gibson is a man's man.
Oh yeah, I like Mel Gibson. Always have. Hopefully, always will. Depends on how bad he's hating on Jews again.
Yeah, and niggas.
Number five, fifth principle, focus on power structures, which is just a fucking narrative, which must be dispensed with. Postmodernists explain how societal norms, history, and language are shaped by oppressive systems. And that's
Yeah.
probably the rationale that's used to dispense with the narrative, because these narratives can be used in such a way to oppress people. Uh, that would be the argument. Um, Obviously, oppression and all these are narratives that must be dispensed with according to postmodernism. I don't know how
Yeah,
they get
they're all
anywhere.
propaganda.
I don't know how they get anywhere.
Yeah, their philosophy is the propaganda to which they want to dispense with. Like, this narrative is trying to oppress you and or trying to make you think one way or another, such as it's oppressing you, such as it must be dispensed with. It's crazy as fuck, and I think it's like it's just aimed towards like low IQ people. Postmodernism. I don't even. I don't even know how the
or
fuck this
just scummy
even had a
people,
game going. Yeah,
people that want to be a snake, be able to weave in and out.
they get a cult following or something. People
Yeah.
just hedonistic and just want to fucking do as they wilt upon the earth.
So our popular philosophers with postmodernism are Derrida and Michel Foucault. So those are
Foucault,
both
that
names
fucker
people would know.
Foucault.
This one was my favorite of the night. This one seemed just basic common sense to me. I never even knew it was like an actual philosophy until I was reading through it. And I was like, damn, I agree with that shit like the whole way through. It's so analytic philosophy. It challenges traditional metaphysical systems by prioritizing clarity, logic, and alignment with the natural sciences. It reshapes philosophical methodology in English speaking countries during the 20th century. Um, it emphasizes logical rigor and the analysis of language and concepts. Um, and it aims to address philosophical problems with precision and systemic reasoning. Um, so the first principle would be focus on language and logic. Analytic philosophy often examines the structure and meaning of language to clarify concepts and solve philosophical problems. This approach is known as the linguistic turn. See, postmodernism would have a problem with focusing on language and logic to clarify concepts because they would see trying to hold people down to a specific definition to a word is oppressive. It's a way of furthering the uh, not meta narrative, but ultra narrative. The I think it said it up here.
Everybody should be able to have their own proprietary
Grand,
definition.
grand narrative. Um, yeah,
I mean, the grand narrative should be be the default, which is kind of weird. But this what is this called? The analysis philosophy or something?
analytic.
The analytic philosophy, yeah. Like like I was saying earlier, I really don't see it as philosophy. It sounds just like a descriptor of like the default state of being of the human mind. You know what I mean? Like just pattern recognition.
Until you understand that there's postmodernists out there and this philosophy and that philosophy, I don't think that they're any of the four sides fit. So the answer to postmodernism would be to the philosophy of postmodernism would be the philosophy of analytics.
Mm. Oh yeah, because postmodern would just be like on some like Taoism shit, like live in the moment, but use shit that you learned from the past. Like
The idea that a man can be a woman is a postmodern idea.
contradictory.
It's a great
Yeah,
example of postmodernism at work.
yeah, absolutely contradiction at every turn.
Strictly defining what a man is and what a woman is oppressive in the postmodernist
Yeah,
view. Um,
yeah.
so that's why men should be able to be allowed to be women, or they're being oppressed.
Because that man may not be a man to him over here. Any objective truth is against postmodernism. That's a wild concept. That's a wild concept to think about, just like objective truth not existing.
Yeah, that's such an easy defeater. If someone says there is no objective truth, you just have to ask, is that objectively true? It's the easiest defeater to any question that there is. Because if it's not, then that means there is objective truth. If it is, then that means there is objective truth. Either way, there's objective truth. There's no way you're getting out of it.
No, because if it is objectively true to someone, then that's only subjective. It's a paradox.
Um, or are you talking about like it's objectively true that um, what was the example? So like I like the color purple. That's a subjective thing, but it's objective
That
that I like the color purple. So my
I don't even
subjectivity
know if
is
that would
objective.
be objective. Um, because you could hate the color purple, but just
But it would be
choose to arbitrarily, yeah, like choose that as your favorite color for some weird psychological reason. Like in social like concepts. Like you know what I mean? Like you could really like pink, but because you're a boy and you was brought up to think that pink was a girl color, you could tell everybody that blue is your favorite color, you know what I mean?
well, yeah,
So
but
objectively your favorite color is pink, but yeah.
subjectively, your favorite color is also pink. You just lie. So
Subjective subjectively to everybody else your color is blue.
yes, I mean that to them
But I
it is
guess that would be
objectively truth.
yeah, that's an objective truth is that, that your favorite color is pink, that you're just a fucking liar. I mean, yeah, objective truth is a hard one to defeat, bro. I'm not, I'm, I don't know.
Subjective is hard to defeat.
Objective, yeah.
Objective is yeah, it's hard to defeat. Elder says I define $1 as 100 now until I need more money. I think I would like postmodernism. Yeah. If only I could convince other people that my $1 is worth $100 too. JS says saying I like purple is objective. Um, well,
I
preferences
mean,
are
purple is
prefer-
the best color.
yeah, preferences are subjective. So you liking something is a preference for that thing, and preferences are subjective. So it would still
Yeah,
be
feelings are
subjective.
fickle, so that would be subjective to your like emotions and mind state anyways. So that
But
would that would like honestly you liking a certain color would be a subjective truth.
yeah, but well, your you like it for subjective reasons. It's
Therefore it's subjective.
um, but yeah, it's subjective. But the you like purple as long as you're being honest when you say that it is objectively true that you
Oh
like
yeah.
purple.
It's objectively true at that moment, yeah, I suppose. Yeah.
So subjectivity can be objective. So not the subject of the subjectivity, but the existence of the subjectivity.
So is postmodernism denying all subjective truth?
No, it denies all objective truth.
That's what I meant. Objective truth. It denies all objective truth.
Yes.
Yeah, it's kind of wild. It's like these dudes smoked a blunt one day and was like, "Yeah, I got an idea about how the world works, man."
Yeah. I mean, it's just people. I don't know, dude. I've read a book on postmodernism, and it doesn't make sense even when it's laid out in academic form. Um, it I've never been able to make sense of it. It like I said, it just seems like a being able to think lazily. It's just a lazy way of thinking. You don't have to really do any work. You don't have to um, justify any of your positions. You can just change the meaning of words and still use those words as if they mean what people think they mean, but they actually mean what you are talking about. And then arguments come up because there's semantical differences in words that we've accepted as a society common among us that you're trying to use in a different way, like calling a man a woman. Well,
Yeah.
that's never been a thing. You can't just call a man a woman and expect society to be like, yeah, okay, well that man's a woman. Well, no, you don't just get to create your own little fucking truth and then expect everybody else to go along with it.
Yeah,
Um,
and it's the reason why we have to fucking spend 15, 30, 45 minutes fucking discussing terms at the beginning of debate because fucking everybody has their own fucking proprietary definitions for shit. I think that postmodernism means this to me. I think that feminism means that to me. It's actually kind of ridiculous to be honest. Like, we should all like I said, if we don't have a societal norm about the definitions of words, then language just breaks down. If everybody fucking has their own definitions for shit, then whenever we communicate with each other, half the time we spend communicating with each other is going to be spent on deciphering what the other means, like fucking defining terms and shit.
what's going on, Bricky? I think it's just first time through here. It's good to see you, man.
Rick, yeah. How you doing, brother? Thanks for sliding through, man.
So back to the core principles of analytic philosophy. We went over the focus on language and logic, and then there's the second principle is clarity and precision. It prioritizes clear definitions, explicit argumentation, and rigorous analysis over abstract or speculative methods. The third principle is philosophical methodology. Philosophers in this tradition use formal logic, mathematics, and sometimes empirical methods to evaluate arguments. And the final principle is conceptual analysis. Analytic philosophers dissect complex ideas into their components to understand their logical relationships. This hits at all our favorite topics to debate in philosophy, like ethics, metaphysics, and epistemology, which is also known as a worldview. Conveniently enough, it is a systematic approach for analyzing one's worldview with a methodology of discipline closely aligned to that of the scientific method. Um, it's basically looking at using logic and something must logically uh, work out. It must be able to be logically correct, logically sound. Um,
Yeah, and that's why I was saying, bro. It seems like it's like just the normal mode of human like cognitive function. Like
but that's
it just doesn't
Fredo.
seem like a philosophy.
You're not getting it, Fredo. Fredo. That's just a narrative. It's got to be dispensed with.
It's
I
so
mean,
hard to wrap my head around, bro. Like it's just difficult. Like
yeah.
I
I
just
mean, the postmodernist would argue that trying to stick to an philosophy of analytics would be oppressive. You're trying to box me in and make me. You're trying to conform me to think in a certain way.
I'm trying to conform you to making you think outside of the box to like
Yeah,
trying to analyze the world around you.
it's oppressive because I can only analyze it the way that you want me to analyze it. Right? I have to use logic. I have to use reason. You know, I have to use
You're
evidence.
making me use my brain, you son of a bitch.
Well, I have to offer justifications.
That's crazy work.
But that's the power of rejecting a presupposition. So that's all the postmodernist is doing. We presuppose that logic is the way that we should go about things. Well, they're like, yeah, but you can't demonstrate that. And depending on what theory of truth you hold to, then it can't be demonstrated. under your theory of truth. Now, it might work under the theory of truth of the
I mean,
proponent.
but it can absolutely be demonstrated even pragmatically, you know what I mean? Like you use logic to like build fire, like you place the wood in a certain like sequence in a certain way and you put your kindling in there and you like, you know what I mean? Like I just don't understand how one could even prescribe to a postmodernist world of view. I'm not even trying to get back on that, but I
I
just
don't
don't
know. I
understand.
don't think it's a conscious, for the most part, it's a conscious uh, affiliation. Or I don't think people are like, yeah, I'm a postmodernist. Um, I think that it is just a lazy way of thinking. People haven't really thought out their positions.
Just like
I've
a proletariat sort of mindset.
um, yeah, I don't know exactly what is meant by that.
Like from
Like an elite.
1984, like no, like the proletariat class, like the down low working class that's like
Yeah, yeah, the peons, the
they're mesmerized by like sports and like fucking, you know what I mean? They don't really think about shit.
Ricky said he's getting his alcohol to deal with this. And Elderline says all this logic and reason is giving me a headache. Just give me everything for free. Buddy, we supply the content for free. It is for your consumption.
Yeah. This is a postmodernist podcast.
uh,
Elderline.
Disavow. Um, yeah, I mean, I forgot where I was going to go with that, but yeah. So that is analytic philosophy, and
Okay.
we are running the clock now, and I've still got three more uh, philosophies to go over. So
Damn.
what I'm
Well, maybe
thinking,
we should hold on the next three for part two.
that was exactly what I was thinking. I was thinking that we do this in two parts. Um, but honestly, we did all the fun ones today. Um, yeah, we did, because the other three is environmental philosophy, which, I mean, that one's kind of interesting, but then you got feminist philosophy, which isn't interesting at all. But then you
I mean,
got
that's kind
the,
of majorly interesting at this point. We got a lot of hot topics with the feminist philosophy. That might take up a lot of time.
yeah, it might. And we have the theory of, I mean, the philosophy of pragmatism. So that one is kind of interesting. So we have environmental philosophy and the philosophy of pragmatism that will be good. With feminist philosophy, it's more so uh, in this sphere. Feminist philosophy is talked about quite a bit, So I think that everybody kind of understands what feminism is. I mean,
Yeah.
so I mean, I could go over it now, get it out of the way, and then find another one to put in its place for the next show. Because it's short. I'll run through it real quick.
All right.
Feminist philosophy, it critiques patriarchal structures in traditional philosophy and society, emphasizing gender equality and exploring how social constructs influence knowledge and ethics. Some core principles, philosophical analysis of feminist concerns. So you see, it is trying to use the um, uh, analytical philosophy and trying to use that when it comes to feminists' issues. Uh, it examines concepts like gender, race, class, sexuality, and to intersectionality to address issues such as inequality, oppression, and social justice. Um, Critique of traditional philosophy, feminist philosophers investigate sexism and androcentrism in historical philosophical text and tradition, often rediscovering overlooked contributions by women philosophers. The only women philosophers that we know of are all the bad ones. Don't know a single good female philosopher.
I don't know any. I don't know any female philosophers, to be honest with
I
you.
mean, some people could argue the
Like Margaret Sanger.
JS free will was going to be last week before we had planned because I told Fredo about it before I had um, set up the debate with you. So we set up the debate, and I was like, "Oh, we got to talk about something else." And then my system was crashing out last week, so I wasn't able to even be on the show to even talk about it if I wanted to. But look, JS, the way this is going to happen, the reason I'm holding my cards so close to my chest is because I'm going to smack the shit out of you in this debate with free
When is
will.
this debate happening?
I think we did. I think we're doing the 26th, so 12 days, less than 2 weeks.
Okay, good.
On Sarah the Raging Tomatoes channel.
Let's go. Okay, JS, let's go.
It's gonna be a good one. So
And I still need a topic from you, JS, for this UVC match we got coming, man.
yeah, I
Cause
don't want you to give your shit away either. So
oh, we don't even have a topic yet, so you're good.
I was talking to JS. Yeah, it's gonna be hard to. I mean, you can figure something out. There's always some sort of disagreement somewhere.
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure me and Jess can find several things to disagree about.
I don't think you could will yourself to do any other way. Well, yeah, I mean that is like the ultimate form of determination. Not
That's him
only
determining to trying to get you to fucking give up your arguments is what.
not only has it been determined since I don't have free will that I'm going to smack you down in this free will debate, but it's all I can also freely will myself to smack you down in this debate. So it's determined both ways, therefore it's meta determined. So this only has one possible outcome here, JS.
Yes, you said racism doesn't exist, bro. Like, are you for real? Like,
There you go. I told
that's a
he has some positions that he's he's not gonna be able to defend. So
that I'm not gonna be able to defend.
you didn't know my pappy.
Man, all right, bro, all right. We can go off that. If Easy will take that as our first topic, and I don't know, I'll look it up. I got 45 minutes of debate for you on why racism does exist, bro. It's kind of a wild concept, bro. Like, what the fuck?
So
I'm a mollywop your ass. I already got an argument. I'm a mollywop your ass, bro. It's crazy.
if I lose, it was determined, so I actually win.
But you can't demonstrate that, JS.
Well, I mean, what's unfortunate is that determinism is bullshit. So you're gonna lose
Uh,
because your ass didn't have the will to argue otherwise.
yeah, you didn't have the determination, motherfucker.
2 hour debate with Jalen. With Jalen though, come on, dude. That's like a 2 hour debate with Bricky. You're gonna talk about a lot of shit. The debate is gonna be almost none of it.
Had a 2 hour debate with Jalen on it. I don't think Jalen like really did prep. I don't think he's the debate type of nigga, bro. You know what I mean? 2 hour debate, like 45.
He's funny.
Like it'll be like
He's funny,
He is
but
funny. 45 minutes to an hour of like just proving that racism is an obvious fucking. I mean, it's a concept. It's metaphysical, so it doesn't exist. Is that like the route you're coming like at it with? But like in practice, it like quite obviously exists. Like I don't like we can leave black people like if black people didn't even exist, you can't argue that racism doesn't exist. It's kind of retarded, bro.
all he did was call you uneducated. Yeah, yeah. He's not a debater. He's a rhetorician at best. Um, It says I have a pretty good reputation for it from a logical sense, but St. Maximus is changing my mind on what free will even means. There's your little nugget, JS. You better take it. Ariak tried to bait me out of it a couple of weeks ago, but I didn't want to use it. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, it's you gotta hold them things close so that you can give a good wallop. You don't get many wallops. Andrew Wilson is incredibly talented and lucky that he has the dumbest opponents in the world. So he could score the bitches over and over again. He's just very well
Bro, I
trained.
don't know about that, man. This motherfucker's on fucking Pierce Morgan with all the high name people, all the intellectual scholars of our time, and he's slaughtering them
I
with the
wouldn't
logic.
I wouldn't call any of them. I mean, like Tommy Lauren, um, you could say like Chang is like mainstream or mainstream-ish, you know.
But
Um,
what I mean is like they have a large following. Like anybody that you have on there, like Cenk, he has shit, millions of followers. He has at least a couple hundred to a couple thousand in his live streams whenever they go live over there. Plus Tommy Lauren, I don't know what she's even streaming on. I don't know how relevant she is, so I can't really even speak to that to be honest. But like nothing's mainstream anymore. Everybody has their own like arbitrary sphere of like influence. Everybody like has a niche like area of what they listen to. So everybody has a following. So she does have an influence on like culture. Like even Tommy Lauren, yeah, she does have an influence on like culture and like society. Like a large influence. Otherwise she wouldn't even be on a platform like that. You know what I mean? So somebody has to be exalting her expertise and her intellectual abilities somewhere, and that's all I'm saying. Really, is he's taking out these giants and bringing at least a couple people from their camp to the other side. I know a couple of people got to see the flaws in their logic.
Anybody who takes a analytic analytical philosophical route is
Yeah,
those are the type of people that are going to be convinced by Andrew. Your ideologues, people who are held to certain ideologies, particularly ones that um, contradictions can easily be produced in, and they keep rolling with it. You're not going to convince them by reasoning. The old adage is you can't reason someone out of a position that they didn't reason themselves into. So a lot of people have emotional investment in the positions that they hold. And they don't want to let go of those positions because they have to let go of that investment. Uh,
absolutely.
so
Because they make it like a part of their identity. Like
yeah,
I'm a communist, you know what I mean? And so any argument for communism, I'm going to hold on to. And no matter the form of logic you bring to me, I'm going to find a way to refute it, even if it doesn't make sense, because my ideology means that much to my existence, to be honest.
yeah, yeah. I never understood being that way, holding to something that can be demonstrated to have contradictions, because they you got a plane flying over.
Yeah, my bad.
uh, hold on. Let me read this. I got one more principle for feminist philosophy. The third one is development of new philosophical approaches. Feminist philosophy introduces new questions and methods that reflect concerns about gender and power dynamics.
Wait, read that one more time. I'm sorry.
Development of new philosophical approaches. Feminist philosophy introduces new questions and methods that reflect concerns about gender and power dynamics. And your
Because
philosophers, what's that?
yeah, scientism. We always have questions. We never have it figured out. We'll never have an answer for you.
Yep. Some of the philosophers are Mary Wollstonecraft, Simone de Beauvoir, her again, Judith Butler, and Kimberly Crenshaw. These are all pretty popular names, and these are some of the proponents of it. But yeah, that is all I've got for the feminism. I mean, like I said, I didn't want to really get into it deep anyway because I've heard so much about feminist philosophy, and it's just if you ever watch Jay Dyer when he talks to these people that are like low tier arguers, like they use shit that's been refuted, 100 years ago or 2,000 years ago. Like you're using arguments that were refuted as soon as they were made.
Yeah,
He
it's
just,
it's the same story of what we was just talking about. You make it a part of your identity, and you just cling to an argument, no matter how it's been ripped apart. It's kind of crazy.
but that is the end of the philosophy hour for this week. So I'll probably find two more um, philosophies that we can get into, and I'll try to make sure they're really cool, um, interesting ones that we can get into next week. But we appreciate all of you being here tonight. It's pretty active in chat. Cool to see.
Uh,
JS
love you
Urban
all. Thank
Adventures.
you all for engaging.
Absolutely. Um, we will see you back here next week, same time, 12:30 Eastern, 11:30 Mountain Time, right? Did you answer that question earlier? I couldn't even remember. Your Mountain Time, right?
11:30 Central Time.
Central. Okay. 11:30 Central, 12:30 Eastern. You all have a blessed night.
All right. God bless and Godspeed, boys.